Okay. Ralston has the size on that.
Looks good.
All right, thank you. All right, so today we're actually going to talk about creating the navigation menu on your website. So this happens to be my test and training website, so it looks different every time I do a class. But we're going to be talking about the navigation menu, or what we call the nav bar up at the top of the screen. Now, this looks different on different layouts. On mine, it doesn't happen to be buttons. It happens to just be words, and it's justified to the right-hand side. Depending on what layout you're on, it may stretch all the way across the screen. It may be justified left or right. Sometimes it looks like buttons. Sometimes it just looks like text, but it is all a little bit different for every layout. All right. So I'm going to show you where you can access your navigation menu, and then I'm going to show you how you can create drop downs, also create individual buttons, and how you can change some of these names. All right. So I'm back in Towne Central here, and I am going to go over to Site Builder, and I'm going to go to Collections, and then Site Editor. Okay. We're going to let that load. And notice you can see the navigation menu is right here. All right. So on this left-hand side, we're going to go to something called Navigation and Interior Pages, this button on the left. If I click that, I have two options here. I can either edit my navigation menu, again, which is this, or I can build interior pages. In this case, we're going to hit Edit Navigation. And it's going to bring up a new screen. So I want to give a warning here. It's something we discuss quite often if you work with me one-on-one. If you make any changes to your navigation menu, if you happen to close out the screen without hitting Publish Navigation, your changes will not save. So everything we do here today, as soon as you're done and you're ready to publish your navigation, make sure you're hitting this button here on the left-hand side. This Cabernet button says Publish Navigation. If I made a bunch of changes to this and just happened to close it out, not thinking, it's not going to save those changes that we made. So I wanted to give that warning right up front as we start doing this. So again, I'm back right where we were before, Edit Navigation or Edit Interior Pages. I'm going to open that window back up called Edit Navigation. Okay, so I wanted you to notice a couple of things. I'm going to show you the layout of this screen, and then I'm going to show you how it works. So we have a couple of options here. Notice that on the right-hand side, all of these navigation buttons, and it shows that we have drop-down items under certain things, correspond with my live website. So here, search for homes, form samples, meet Kristen, about us, and a contact button. If I'm just going to switch tabs real quick over to my live website, here you can see the exact same thing. Search for homes, form samples, and there's all the drop-down stuff underneath it, meet Kristen, about us, and then a contact button. So this question does come up fairly often. What about that login and sign in? That's actually not a button on the screen. It's built into every single template, so it's not something that can be changed. It's not something that can be moved. We're really just focusing on this navigation menu here. I'm going to go back to our Site Builder website tab so that you can see what we're working with. All right, let's take a quick tour of everything else that's on here. So we have a couple of options. We can have all of the pages that I have built, but notice this is a drop-down. The company has built a bunch of different pages for you guys to use automatically. And so I can switch this from adding my content that I've created to also adding content that the company has created as well. So it just depends on what kind of content you want to add. The majority of the time we're adding pages that we've already created. And pages can be anything. It can be an SEO saved search for featured properties. It can be a bio page. It can be a different contact page. It can be a topic page like how to get your home ready to sell. It can be just about anything. And we can go ahead and organize that. You do have a search function on here. So if you start to build out a lot of interior pages and you just want to find something really quickly, you can always search for it if you happen to know the name of the page. So, for example, if you built something for the Allenton subdivision, for example, you could just pop in Allenton here, hit search pages, and it would bring it up. However, you can see all of your pages down below. So the first tab we get to says all. If I open that up, It is literally going to bring up every single page that's available to me that I have built. So I've built some pages here for training on an individual home. Here's the About Kristen. Here's Allenton again. Here's some other SEO pages I built, Deepwater Homes in Hampton Roads. Here's some featured properties, some individual pages for some of my buyers and sellers. Logging into property watches. Here's something on the Military Advantage program. All of these pages are available to you. Okay, this is just a whole list of pages. As you start to build out your website, however, you'll notice that sometimes it's easier to find something by organizing it. So if I go over here to the left-hand side, it's going to give me drop downs for individual things. If I've added any links, which are links off to other pages, they may exist somewhere else. Like the mortgage calculator may go over to the Towne mortgage calculator. It's going to be under the link function. If I click on featured, it's going to give me every featured property page I've ever made. If I click on lead forms, it's going to give me every lead form page I've ever made. So here's 123 Main Street. That was for an open house I did on 123 Main Street. And it's just a lead form for that. We have other open house lead forms here, but you may have lead forms for things like download a PDF or download my ebook or get access to my ebook, things like that we like to call squeeze pages. So you may build something like that. We even have lead pages built into the system for things like sign up for my newsletter. Here under pages are all the different individual interior pages we've built. So in this case, I've built some things for more about us, for some clients, for me. If you've created a profile page, it's going to be under the profile page section. SEO pages. These are things like those neighborhood pages. We talk about these all the time, where you can create an SEO landing page that has a bit of information on it. Plus, it has a saved search so that it shows all the different houses that are available under that criteria. So for things like neighborhood subdivisions, saved searches, it can be for specific criteria like the Deepwater Homes in Hampton Roads. I even have an agent who has a saved search for all of homes in Hampton with fenced backyards because they actually market to people with pets. So we have all sorts of different SEO pages. SEO is just a fancy name for a landing page that includes homes. And then, of course, we have system pages. So these are pages that belong to every single website. In this case, search homes for sale, my blog, and log into Property Watch. Now, Property Watch, of course, is the feature of the website that allows someone to receive new listings, price changes, things like that, right to their email box. All right. So that's where we find all the pages. And then, of course, we talked about this already. This on the right-hand side corresponds with my navigation menu I already have. And then we have this button here called Create Navigation Title. And I'm going to show you how to use this in just a second. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you how you can add an individual item, not a drop-down menu, just an individual item to your navigation menu. So one of the things I don't have on here is the login to Property Watch. It's a great way for people to interact with your website. It's also a great lead generator. So I don't want to hide this under a dropdown. I actually want to go ahead and put this directly onto my navigation menu. So I'm going to show you how you can add an individual item. So I know that my login to Property Watch happens to be under the system page. But if I needed to find it for whatever reason, I can type in Property Watch here. And I can search my pages, and it's going to go ahead and bring it up. Oh, don't be slow on me this morning. So I don't know about you guys, but because of school going back in, all of Isle of Wight County schools out here are closed. We are having a great time with speed on our internet. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose it off the system page here. There we go. Log into Property Watch. I'm just going to check the button next to it. That's all I have to do. And then I'm going to hit Add to Navigation. And I want you to see what has happened. All right. Notice that login to Property Watch is now added onto here. That's obviously not the title I want to use, so I'm going to show you how to change that as well. But I wanted to show you that these blocks are movable. All you have to do is click on it with your mouse and literally just pick it up, and you can drag it and drop it anywhere. In this case, I want this right after my search homes for sale. So I'm just going to pick it up and drop it. Again, let me show you how that works. Just pick it up. Notice that yellow line in between the two blocks there. Just pick it up and drop it. All right. Now remember, this is not going to show up on my navigation menu until I hit Publish Navigation. So I want to change the name of this. This is obviously not something I want to use right here. So I'm going to just open it up, and you can use these tiny little triangular drop downs. And then you can change the name of this. So I'm going to just change this to log in to, or sign up. Why don't we make it sign up? Or property. Okay. That's all I need to do. There's no save, there's no add, there's nothing here. As soon as I close out this window and I hit Publish Navigation, which I'm going to do right now, it's going to tell me that the navigation has been published. And you'll notice it on your preview screen here in Site Builder. So notice it has sign up for Property Watch on here. And if I go back to my live website and I hit refresh, notice sign up for Property Watch has come on. So the next thing I want to show you is how to build one of these drop downs. I just happen to have something called form samples on here. When you guys are looking at different kinds of forms to use, I built a drop down that has all the forms so we can look at it together when we're doing training. But I'm going to show you how you can build one maybe for featured properties. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here to Site Builder. I'm logged in still. And I'm going to go to Edit Navigation again. And it's going to bring up that navigation window. We were just here. So in this case, I want to add something with a drop down. If I were to go and I were to add all of my featured properties or my SEO pages, and I wanted to add a whole bunch of these over here, they would drop into this menu just like that Property Watch did, but I would have nowhere to put them. So we have to build one of these blocks that has a drop-down item available on it. So that's where this button comes in handy, this Create Navigation Title. That should basically say Create Drop-Down Title, because that's exactly what it does. So if I click that button, it's going to ask me to create a title. So in this case, I'm going to just say maybe Featured Neighborhoods. Okay. And then hit Create Title. All right. Notice that it added it to my menu, and it has something called a drop-down item underneath it. But I don't necessarily want it here. I want it under my homes for sale or before my property watch. So I'm just going to pick up this block and I'm going to move it. Remember, we have that yellow line right there. All right. So in order to add things to a drop-down menu, you have to click the drop-down menu to open it. Okay. And it's going to tell you to drop your nav items here. I want to show you what that looks like when we start to drop navigation items. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to add some things under featured neighborhoods. So I am going to go back to my menu on the left-hand side. I know all of my featured neighborhoods, my SEO pages that I've built are under this SEO tab. And I'm going to add both Allenton and Gatling Point and Larimore Lawns over to my drop-down menu for my featured neighborhoods. So you can check multiple boxes. That's another question that comes up fairly often. Multiple boxes are totally fine. So I'm going to check these three, and I'm going to hit Add to Navigation.
Is now exiting.
Notice that it added those featured neighborhoods into my main navigation, just like it had every other button. So we need to go ahead and move these little blocks underneath that drop-down. Remember I said you had to open up the drop-down in order to move them. If I were to try to move Larimore Lawns under my featured neighborhoods right now, and I tried to stick it on the featured neighborhoods, it's not going to go anywhere because my drop-down isn't open. So it's just going to drop it before or after the main navigation. Okay. So here's our featured neighborhoods. Just going to open that up. And you can see it here, drop nav items here. As soon as you see that, that's available to drop your navigation items. So I'm going to take that block and I'm going to move it down. And notice that that yellow line is now available under the drop-down items. As soon as you see that yellow line available under drop-down items, you know that you're moving it into the drop-down menu. So I'm just going to drag and drop, and now you can see it's in drop-down items. We're going to do the same thing for Gatling Point. So I'm going to pick it up. And as soon as I see that yellow line and drop-down items, I know I'm in the right spot. And there we go. And we'll do the same thing for Allenton. We're just going to pick it up and we're going to move it in here. Now, while this drop-down items menu is open, I want to show you what you can do. You can also move things within the drop-down. So if I wanted to alphabetize these, for example, I need to move Allenton above Gatling Point. I can literally pick up the block, and as long as that yellow line stays within that drop-down items, I can move each of these individual pieces within that drop-down. All right. So maybe I don't want to have something like Allenton homes for sale, Gatling Point homes for sale. I want it to look a little bit more like this Larry Moore Lawns. We can do the exact same thing that we did under the main navigation titles and just change the name. So if I open this, here's that little triangle again. I see Allenton homes for sale. I'm just going to take homes for sale off. Okay. And I don't need to save or anything else with this small piece right here. And when I publish it, it will go ahead and change this on the navigation menu. But the same thing here for Gatling Point. Just going to click that drop down and take off homes for sale. And that's it. So now I have a new drop down with drop down items underneath it. I'm finished with what I'm doing here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit publish navigation. So navigation has been published. So now we can see it on my preview. Here I am in my site builder preview, and here's my featured neighborhoods. I have my 3 neighborhoods. Remember, homes for sale we took off. And if I go back to my live website, I'm just going to hit refresh, and there's featured neighborhoods, and there's Allenton, Gatling Point, and Larry Moore Lawns right there. And people can click on those and go right to the SEO page that I built on my website. So I've shown you today how you can add an individual item, and then I've shown you how you can add a drop-down. I want to show you really quick, the last thing is how to remove something from your navigation. So in this case, I want to remove Meet Kristen, and I'm going to change this to a drop-down because I'm going to add some more information to it. So I'm going to go back to my edit navigation, and again, this mirrors what's already on my site. And notice I have Meet Kristen. It's not a drop-down, it's just an individual item. I want to turn this into a drop-down because I want to add my bio page under a drop-down. And then I just finished my MRP. So I want to go ahead and add the MRP under there so people understand what it means to be an MRP. So in this case, I want to remove this tab. You can't turn an individual item into a drop-down. You will have to create a navigation title that has drop-down items underneath it. So in this case, this literally went to my bio page, just an individual item. I'm just going to go ahead and take that off. Don't worry, we're going to put it back, but we're going to put it back in a different way. I'm going to hit remove. And it's going to ask me, are you sure you want to delete this? In this case, I'm going to say yes. All right. So now the Meet Kristen is gone. But I want to recreate it, but I want to recreate it in a different way. So I'm going to go back to that create navigation title, and I'm going to put About Kristen. And I'm going to go ahead and create that. Remember, it always adds it to the top of the list. Obviously, I don't want About Kristen at the very top. So I'm just going to go ahead and move that down to where it was. And then we have drop-down items here. So I want to add my bio page that I had already created. So there's my bio page that says Meet Kristen. That was the individual item that it went to before. So in this case, we're going to add this to the drop-down instead. So I'm going to put a little checkered box there, and then I'm going to hit Add to Navigation. All right. So Meet Kristen is now up here, but I'm not done. That's not the only thing I want to add under this. Remember I said that the company had created system pages for you that you can automatically use. A couple of them would be the MRP and the SRES. Those are classes that Tim gives fairly often. So I'm switching from Kristen Fredericks' pages, and I'm going to click Company Pages instead. So these are all pages that the company has already created for you. And if I drop down this All button, notice that the MRP and the SRES are already here. I'm actually going to go ahead and check these both for example. So I'm both an MRP and an SRES, and I'm going to add that to my navigation. So now if I go back over here on the right-hand side, remember I have all these individual pieces and I have to add them to my dropdown. So here's Meet Kristen, MRP, SRES. We're going to do the exact same thing we did before. Here's the About Kristen dropdown I just created. I'm going to open that dropdown item because remember we can't drop things into a dropdown unless it's open. So you see drop nav items here. You won't be able to drop into it. I am going to move Meet Kristen into it. Remember, here's that yellow line in the dropdown item. And I'm going to add the MRP right below Meet Kristen, and then the SRES. Just going to pick that up and drop it in. And now I have a new dropdown that says About Kristen, and it includes my bio and 2 of my designations that I have in here. Okay. So since I'm done, I want to make sure I hit Publish Navigation. Now, when I hit Publish Navigation this time, it's going to do a couple of things. Notice we've worked with this for a while, so we don't have to do it after every single change that we make. I went ahead and removed About Kristen, and then I made another drop-down menu, and then I added some more items under it. So when I hit Publish Navigation this time, it's going to remove something, plus it's going to add something else. I'm going to hit Publish Navigation. It's going to tell me that it's done it. And then on my preview here under Site Builder, you're going to be able to see here's Meet Kristen, my MRP, and my SRES. And if I go back to my website, I'm just going to hit refresh. Maybe. All right, here we go. And notice About Kristen now has a drop down, Meet Kristen, MRP, SRES. And if I click on SRES, you'll notice that that is a system page that talks about being a seniors real estate specialist that includes the SRES information from NAR to explain what an SRES is. All right. So that is how you edit your navigation on the Site Builder websites, both individual items, creating dropdowns, removing items, and moving items around. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
And if you have any questions, just go ahead and unmute and feel free to share your questions.
Kim Johnson
is now joining.
All right, looks like there are no questions, so this will end our class on Site Builder. Our next class, which is at 11 o'clock, is how to create prospecting lists using the Cole neighborhood software available to you in Town Central. We will see everyone back at 11 o'clock, and thank you and have a good morning.